Hi guys, happy Monday. Hope you had a nice weekend. We're going to start reading a short story from our pink textbook. So that is all that you will need for today is the pink textbook. I'm actually going to read about 2/3 of the story aloud to you while you follow along. And then when I'm done reading, I'll kind of summarize what we've read so far, and then you are going to leave a comment underneath this video, starting with a discussion starter like we used to do when we had class discussions led by students in the classroom. So I noticed, I wonder, I liked, I disliked, I predict, I'm confused by, I was surprised when, or a connection I made was. So that's all you have to do for your assignment today is listen to the story, follow along with me, and then leave a comment underneath the video. It won't be a separate assignment. Okay, I'd like you to open to page 109 in your pink textbook. The story that we're going to be reading is called The War of the Wall, and it's written by Tony Cade Bambara. Some things that I'd like to talk about a little bit before we get started. On page 109, under Building Background Information, something that you need to understand a little bit about as we read this story is what is a mural. A mural is a large picture or scene painted on or applied to a wall. In the United States during the hard times of the 1930s and the 1940s, a murals program was launched by the federal government. Artists in need were commissioned to paint murals in hundreds of new post offices. At the same time in Mexico, artists such as Diego Rivera, Jose Clemente Orozco, and David Siqueiros were representing Mexican life and history on the walls of public buildings. In the 1960s, African American artists began a Wall of Respect movement. These artists painted murals on walls in their communities as symbols of their respect for the neighborhoods. So I'd like you to keep in mind what a mural is as we're going through this. If you could also look on page 109 at the Connect to Your Life. It says hanging out. These are some other things that I'd like you to kind of keep in mind as we're reading. Is there a place in your neighborhood that seems to belong to young people? Perhaps a park or a schoolyard or a theater. What is special about this place? Why is it important to young people? And what does the place mean to the rest of the community? So be thinking about that as we're reading. Another thing to think about as we read this is under active reading on page 109, two events have a cause and effect relationship when one event brings about the other. The event that happens first in time is the cause. The event that comes afterward is the effect. However, the effect may sometimes be stated before the cause. So be thinking about some causes and effects. Causes for certain characters to behave a certain way, for example, and then what is the effect or consequence of that behavior later on in the story. So moving on to The War of the Wall by Tony Cade Bambara on page 110. Follow along with me in your book. Me and Lou had no time for courtesies. We were late for school, so we just flat out told the painter lady to quit messing with the wall. It was our wall, and she had no right coming into our neighborhood painting on it. Stirring in the paint bucket and not even looking at us, she mumbled something about Mr. Eubanks, the barber, giving her permission. That had nothing to do with it as far as we were concerned. We've been pitching pennies against that wall since we were little kids. Old folks have been dragging their chairs out to sit in the shade of the wall for years. Big kids have been playing handball against the wall since so-called integration when the crazies across town poured cement in our pool so we couldn't use it. I'd sprained my neck one time, boosting my cousin Lou up to chisel Jimmy Lyon's name into the wall when we found out he was never coming home from the war in Vietnam to take us fishing. So at the very beginning of the story, the speaker, the narrator of the story, kind of tells us why this wall is so important to the community and what it means to different age groups within the community and so on. and also talks about, and this is significant to the story, so it's important to remember, Jimmy Lyons, who they chiseled his name into the wall when they found out he was never coming back from the war in Vietnam. So if you're finding out that someone's never coming back from a war, sadly, that means that that person probably has passed away in the war. So keep that in mind about Jimmy Lyons and how his name is chiseled into the wall. If you lean close, Lou said, leaning hip shot against her beat up car, you'll get a whiff of bubble gum and kids' sweat, and that'll tell you something, that this wall belongs to the kids of Taliaferro Street. I thought Lou sounded very convincing, but the painter lady paid us no mind. She just snapped the brim of her straw hat down and hauled her bucket up the ladder. "You're not even from around here," I hollered up after her. The license plates on her old piece of car said New York. Lou dragged me away because I was about to grab hold of that ladder and shake it, and then we'd really be late for school. So, the main characters, the two boys, Lou and the narrator, are not happy about this lady coming in and painting on their wall. Starting with the big W on 111. When we came from school, the wall was slick with white. The painter lady was running string across the wall and taping it here and there. Me and Lou leaned against the gumball machine outside the pool hall and watched. She had strings up and down and back and forth. Then she began chalking them with a hunk of blue chalk. The Morris twins crossed the street, hanging back at the curb next to the beat-up car. The twin with the red ribbons was hugging a jug of cloudy lemonade. The one with yellow ribbons was holding a plate of dinner away from her dress. The painter lady began snapping the strings. The blue chalk dust measured off halves and quarters up and down and sideways, too. Lou was about to say how hip it all was, but I dropped my book satchel on his toes to remind him we were at war. Some good aromas were drifting our way from the plate, leaking pot liquor onto the Morris girls' white socks. I could tell from where I stood that the tinfoil was baked ham, that under the tinfoil was baked ham, collard greens, and candied yams. And knowing Mrs. Morris, who sometimes bakes for my mama's restaurant, a slab of buttered cornbread that was probably up under there too, sopping up some of the pot liquor, which is like the juice from meat. Me and Lou rolled our eyes, wishing somebody would send us some dinner. But the painter lady didn't even turn around. She was pulling the strings down and prying bits of tape loose. Side Pocket came strolling out of the pool hall to see what Lou and me were studying so hard. He gave the painter lady the once-over, checking out her paint-spattered jeans, her chalky t-shirt, her floppy-brimmed straw hat. He hitched up his pants and glided over toward the painter lady, who kept right on with what she was doing. "What you got there, sweetheart?" he asked the twin with the plate. "Supper," she said, all soft and country-like. "For her," the one with the jug added, jerking her chin toward the painter lady's back. Still, she didn't turn around. She was rearing back on her heels, her hands jammed into her back pockets, her face squinched up like the masterpiece she had in mind was taking shape on the wall by magic. We could have been gophers crawled up into a rotten hollow for all she cared. She didn't even say hello to anybody. Lou was muttering something about how great her concentration was. I butt him with my hip, and his elbow slid off the gum machine. "Good evening," Side Pocket said in his best ain't I fine voice. But the painter lady was moving from the milk crate to the step stool to the ladder, moving up and down fast, scribbling all over the wall like a crazy person. We looked at Side Pocket. He looked at the twins. The twins looked at us. The painter lady was giving a show. It was like those old-timey music movies where the dancer taps on the tabletop and then starts jumping all over the furniture, kicking chairs over and not skipping a beat. She didn't even look where she was stepping. And for a minute there, hanging on the ladder to reach a far spot, she looked like she was going to tip right over. "Ah," Side Pocket cleared his throat and moved fast to catch the ladder. "These young ladies here have brought you some supper." "Ma'am?" The twins stepped forward. Finally, the painter turned around, her eyes full of sky, as my grandmama would say. Then she stepped down like she was in a trance. She wiped her hands on her jeans as the Morris twins offered up the plate and the jug. She rolled back the tinfoil, then wagged her head as though something terrible was on the plate. "Thank your mother very much," she said. Something like her mouth was full of sky, too. "I brought my own dinner along." And then, without even excusing herself, she went back up the ladder, drawing on the wall in a wild way. Side Pocket whistled one of those "oh brother" breathy whistles and went back into the pool hall. The Morris twins shifted their weight from one foot to the other, then crossed the street and went home. Lou had to drag me away. I was so mad. We couldn't wait to get to the firehouse to tell my daddy all about this rude woman who'd stolen our wall. All the way back to the block to help my mama out at the restaurant, me and Lou kept asking my daddy for ways to run the painter lady out of town. But my daddy was busy talking about the trip to the country and telling Lou he could come too because Grandmama can always use an extra pair of hands on the farm. Later that night, while me and Lou were in the back doing our chores, we found out that the painter lady was a liar. She came into the restaurant and leaned against the glass of the steam table, talking about how starved she was. I was scrubbing pots and Lou was chopping onions, but we could hear her through the service window. She was asking Mama, was that a ham hock in the greens? And was that a neck bone in the pole beans? And were there any vegetables cooked without meat, especially pork? "I don't care who your spiritual leader is," Mama said in that way of hers. "If you eat in this community, sister, you're going to eat pig by and by, one way or another." Me and Lou were cracking up in the kitchen, and several customers at the counter were clearing their throats, waiting for Mama to really fix her wagon for not speaking to the elders when she came in. The painter lady took a stool at the counter and went right on with her questions. Was there cheese in the baked macaroni, she wanted to know? Were there eggs in the salad? Was it honey or sugar in the iced tea? Mama was fixing Pop Johnson's plate, and every time the painter lady asked a fool question, Mama would dump another spoonful of rice on the pile. She was tapping her foot and heating up in a dangerous way, but Pop Johnson was happy as he could be. Me and Lou peeked through the service window, wondering what planet the painter lady came from. Who ever heard of baked macaroni without cheese or potato salad without eggs? "Do you have any bread made with unbleached flour?" the painter lady asked Mama. There was a long pause, as though everybody in the restaurant was holding their breath, wondering if Mama would dump the next spoonful on the painter lady's head. She didn't, but when she set Pop Johnson's plate down, it came down with a bang. I am going to stop there. That is about a little more than halfway through the story. So far, we have a painter lady coming and painting on this wall that is very important to the community for a lot of different reasons. The speaker and his friend Lou are not pleased with the painter lady being there. There's a long explanation where some children in the community bring the painter lady dinner, which she turns down and kind of makes up a white lie, which is kind of a fib that you tell, a lie that you tell to make it so that you don't hurt someone's feelings, but kind of gets caught in that white lie when she goes into the family's restaurant and says that she's really hungry and is looking for food after she turned down the food that the little girls had brought for her. The lady was kind of peculiar meaning strange. Her behavior was a little peculiar and standoffish, meaning that you're not really outgoing and being friendly. You're kind of the opposite, kind of keeping to yourself. As people are trying to communicate with her, including the little girls that brought her dinner, and Side Pocket, who comes out of the pool hall and kind of tries to get her attention, it takes quite a while before she even acknowledges that they're there, because she's so focused on what she's doing on this wall as she's painting or getting ready to paint this mural. So she goes into the family restaurant. She's asking all kinds of questions like, is there cheese on the macaroni, and things like that the boys think are pretty strange. And the mother is obviously getting annoyed with the woman's behavior. So think about what you think is going to happen next. Everybody's kind of waiting as the mother kind of gets more and more annoyed with this lady. And like I said in the comment section after this video, all I want you to do is make a comment like as if we were having a classroom discussion about the story so far. Something that you noticed. I noticed, I wonder, I liked because, I disliked because, I predict, I'm confused by, I was surprised when, or a connection I made was. That's all for today, guys. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll finish up the story. And I'll give you another quick assignment, quick writing assignment to do. Great job. And hopefully you got your materials in the mail today, including the green textbook. I'm starting with the pink textbook in case that hasn't arrived yet. Have a great Monday, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, 7th graders.